Fire them all, Richard Hale said coldly, staring at the spreadsheet glowing on his laptop screen. Every single one who's been late this month. The assistant hesitated. Sir, that includes more than 40 employees, most of them from housekeeping. Then 40 it is, Richard interrupted, his voice sharp as broken glass. This hotel bleeds money because of lazy people. I won't tolerate it. The Hale Grand, his billion-dollar chain's flagship, stood tall over the city skyline. From the outside, it sparkled with wealth, marble floors, golden chandeliers, a fountain shaped like angel wings. But inside, whispers told another story. Overworked maids, broken machines, and a management too afraid to speak. Richard had built his empire from inheritance, not sweat. To him, people were numbers. Mistakes were reasons for firing, not understanding. But that week, an anonymous letter arrived at his desk. Mr. Hale, you should see how your hotel really runs. From the eyes of the people you ignore. The note had no name, but it hit him where pride lived. Someone was challenging him. So, he made a decision no one expected. He went undercover. The next morning, Richard walked into the Hale Grand not as the owner, but as Rick, a middle-aged man in an old uniform with a fake beard, cheap glasses, and a cleaning cart. No one looked twice. The billionaire became invisible. The scent of bleach hit his nose as he pushed the cart down the long hallway of luxury suites. The carpet muffled every sound except the faint hum of the air conditioning. He had never seen a hotel like this. From the bottom up, a voice called out, sharp and frustrated. Hey, you miss a spot, new guy. Richard turned. A tall manager in a suit frowned at him. Move faster, old man. Guests are checking in soon. The insult stung, not because of pride, but because he realized this was how his employees were treated. He cleaned silently, pretending not to care. His back began to ache. His hands smelled of chemicals. His reflection in the polished glass didn't look like a billionaire anymore. It looked tired, small, human. Then, near room 507, he met her. A woman in a faded blue uniform, mid-40s maybe, with kind eyes and skin glistening with sweat from hours of work. She was humming softly while changing the bed sheets. Need a hand? Richard asked, keeping his voice low. She smiled without looking up. Only if you're faster than clock. Honey, they cut our brakes again. He blinked. They what? She shrugged. Manager says we don't need time to rest. Said it's a privilege, not a right. Her name tag read M. Lawson. She moved gracefully, despite exhaustion. Every corner she cleaned looked like care, not duty. As she worked, Richard noticed her hands. Rough, scarred, but steady. She didn't complain, didn't slow down. She even helped another maid who was crying in the hallway, whispering something that made the young woman nod with hope. It bothered him that he, the owner, had never seen her before. That evening, as he emptied trash bins beside her, he asked, How long have you worked here? 14 years, she said, smiling faintly. This place is home. 14? Richard frowned. And no promotion? Her eyes softened. Some homes don't reward loyalty, but they still deserve love. Her words hung in the air like smoke, heavy, haunting. Before he could respond, the manager's voice thundered from a hallway. Lawson, you missed the VIP suite again. Do you want to lose your job? The maid froze, her face tightening. I'll take care of it, sir. But as the manager stormed off, she whispered under her breath, 3 quiet words that made Richard's chest tighten. 3 words that would change everything. He's still here. Richard froze. She wasn't talking about the manager. She was talking about someone else. Someone or something that haunted her past, and now, unknowingly, his future. Richard Hale didn't sleep that night. The words "he's still here" kept echoing in his mind like a ghost. Who was he? And why did the maid say it in that quiet, trembling tone, like a secret she wasn't supposed to speak aloud? The next morning, Rick the janitor reported for duty again. He made sure to work near M. Lawson, the maid who had unknowingly shaken his world. She was scrubbing the hallway floor, humming softly again. Her movements were calm, but her eyes darted toward room 512, the one she had avoided yesterday. Richard pushed his mop bucket closer. "You didn't clean that room yesterday," he said carefully. She froze for half a second. "No, I asked the manager to send someone else." "Why?" Her voice dropped low. "Because some rooms never forget." That answer wasn't just strange. It was chilling. Later that afternoon, Richard decided to find out himself. When no one was around, he used his master key card and opened the door to room 512. The lights flickered. The air smelled faintly of bleach and old smoke. The curtains were drawn and the room looked perfectly clean, too clean, almost staged. He stepped inside. Something crunched under his shoe. A tiny silver locket lay on the floor. Inside was a picture of a young boy smiling beside the same maid he'd met earlier. Lawson had a son. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. "What are you doing here?" It was a manager. Richard straightened. "Just checking for trash," he said quickly. "Well, get out. That room's off limits for staff unless approved. The last guest complained about missing jewelry. We can't afford more mess-ups." "Who was the guest?" Richard asked. The manager frowned. "Some rich businessman. Stayed 6 years ago. Real piece of work. Thought he owned the place." Something twisted in Richard's chest. "What happened?" The man shrugged. "There was an incident. A boy got hurt. Some cleaning lady's kid. I don't remember all of it. She still works here, though. Stubborn woman. Refused to sue. Said the boy's spirit still visits her." Then he laughed, cold and careless. "Creepy, huh?" Richard said nothing. He felt something heavy sink inside him. A boy, a locket, a mother who never left. That evening, he found Lawson sitting alone on a bench near the laundry room, staring at an old photo. He sat beside her quietly. "That your son?" She nodded. "Yes. Malik. He used to wait for me after school right here, in this hotel. I told him not to run in the hallways." Her eyes glistened. "But one day he did. He bumped into a guest, a man who didn't like being touched." Her voice cracked. He shouted, grabbed Malik by the collar, and pushed him. My boy fell down the service stairs. By the time I reached him, she paused. Tears filled her eyes. He was gone. Richard felt like the floor had dropped beneath him. "Didn't the hotel do anything?" he whispered. "They said it was an accident." Her tone hardened. "That man was rich. He made a few calls, and the case disappeared. The owner never even showed up to apologize." Richard's heart pounded. He was the owner, the one who had never known, the one who had let her suffer alone. "And you stayed?" he asked quietly. "I stayed because Malik loved this place," she said softly. "Every night when I walk these halls, I feel him. Sometimes I whisper, 'I'm still here, baby.' And sometimes I swear I hear him say it back, 'I'm still here, mama.'" Richard froze. The words, those were the 3 words she'd said yesterday. Not about a man, not about fear, but about her son. She looked at him then, eyes filled with quiet strength. "People think I'm crazy for believing he's still here. But love doesn't die. It just changes form." Richard couldn't speak. His throat ached. For the first time in years, he didn't see a maid. He saw a mother holding on to what little of her heart was left. Richard Hale sat in the empty staff lounge long after everyone had gone home. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead. The smell of detergent and coffee filled the air. On the table in front of him lay the small silver locket, Malik's smiling face staring back at him. He couldn't breathe. He had built a kingdom of glass and gold and never noticed the cracks bleeding underneath. A child had died in his hotel. A mother had cleaned the floors of that same hallway for 14 years, unseen, unheard, unpaid for her pain. And he, Richard Hale, the powerful, untouchable owner, had never even known her name. He felt something deep inside shift. For the first time in decades, it wasn't anger or pride driving him. It was guilt. And guilt, he realized, could burn hotter than fire. The next morning, Rick the janitor showed up again. But his cleaning cart wasn't just full of mops and towels. Hidden beneath the rags was a notebook, filled with plans, ideas, and a quiet mission. He started listening. He listened to the old dishwasher, whose hands shook from exhaustion. He listened to the night guard, who hadn't seen his kids in months because of double shifts. He listened to the cooks who were told to reuse leftovers because profits came first. Every story cut him deeper. At lunch, he sat beside Lawson again. She was quietly eating a sandwich wrapped in old paper. "You ever think of leaving?" he asked. She smiled softly. "Sometimes, but this place is full of memories, even the painful ones. Malik's laughter is still in these walls." He looked down. "If the owner could hear you, what would you tell him?" Her smile faded. "I'd tell him to stop running his hotel like a machine. I'd tell him that people build walls and clean floors, not numbers. I'd tell him to care." Her voice broke a little at the end, and she looked away quickly. Richard swallowed hard. Maybe one day he'll hear that. That night, Richard stayed after hours. He went through every corner of the hotel, the cold storage, the laundry room, the service tunnels. He saw the peeling paint, the broken heaters, the overused vacuums taped with duct tape. He saw what his money had ignored. By morning, he had made a decision. He wasn't going to leave this hotel the same way he found it. But he couldn't reveal his identity yet. Not until he understood what kind of man he really was. So he began fixing things quietly. He replaced the old mops and machines using his own cash, anonymously. He wrote letters to management under fake names, suggesting better pay, fairer shifts, new safety rules. He even made sure the broken stairwell, where Malik had fallen, was rebuilt, polished, and safe again. He didn't tell anyone, but the staff began to notice. "The janitor keeps showing up early," someone said. "Did you see? The old coffee machine's replaced." Another whispered, "Who's doing all this?" Lawson just smiled. Maybe someone finally cares. A week later, while cleaning the hotel lobby, Richard overheard the general manager laughing with another man. "Old Mrs. Lawson still holding on," the manager said. "If it were up to me, I'd have fired her long ago. She slows everyone down." Something in Richard snapped. He dropped the mop and stepped forward. "You fire her and you'll regret it." The manager turned sharply. "Excuse me?" "I said," Richard repeated, his voice cold, "you'll regret it." The room went silent. The manager glared. "You're just a janitor. Watch your tone." Richard met his eyes. Not for long. That night, Richard stood alone in his penthouse suite. The same man, but no longer the same soul. He pulled off his fake beard and glasses, looked at his reflection, and whispered, "Tomorrow they'll all know." He was done hiding. It was time the billionaire faced his own empire.